their body's here, but their soul isn't even present. And so I'm not saying that when you feel like this, that you look like a mass murderer or a crackhead, but I'm saying you look a lot closer to this than when you're feeling good. And the signals you're giving off to people. I mean, people tell me that, oh, Nick's just a good-looking guy. That's why I gets girls. But if I looked like this when I was trying to talk to girls, do you think any women in the world would be attracted to me? Probably not. Or maybe a couple, but I don't really want them. So now what happens when you're feeling good? Exactly the opposite. Your heart starts beating more slowly. As your heart starts beating more slowly, you start taking deeper, slower breaths. Oh, thank God. That sucks. As you're taking those deeper, slower breaths, it affects your voice. You start speaking more slowly. Start speaking a little bit more deeply. And because you have more air rushing out over your vocal cords, you don't even have to try to yell, but you start speaking with more strength, more power, more volume. Your blood now is being sucked back into your internal organs, no more butterflies in your stomach. And your muscles become nice and loose. Oh, your shoulders drop back down and pull back. Your back straightens. Oh, releasing all that tension from your chest and your neck. Oh, and your lower body loosens up too. And this is important because your hips are really where your sexuality's at. If your hips are tight, I mean, eye contact is number one, of course. But if your hips are tight, a woman's not going to be feeling any sexuality. You look at the video I did last year where I demonstrated physical escalation, and my hips were very much on a swivel. I mean, I like to rub my crotch against girls quite a bit when I talk to them, and it all comes from having nice, smooth hips. I like to lead with my hips when I'm moving, when I'm feeling nice and sexy. And yeah, your legs, your knees, your ankles are all nice and loose, so your weight shifts nicely and slowly from one foot to the other, not quickly, but just kind of like warm honey, moving nice and smoothly back and forth. Oh, yeah. The most dramatic change, of course, happens in your face. Your mind slows down, so your eyes start to focus on one thing at a time. You take in everything, every little detail. You pay attention. It's like Sherlock Holmes when he surveys a room. He takes in every little detail of what's happening around him. And most dramatically is in the expression in your face. All of a sudden, your face booms with expression. Doesn't matter what you're talking about. You're not talking about it with your words. You're talking about it with your entire body. So that somebody who couldn't even hear your words can feel what you're saying. If you're not communicating like that, you're not communicating. And so you can always control these things. You can always control your physical body at any second you want to. And I'll tell you the three most common times in relations to women, and I see this time and time again from working with guys, the three most common areas where a guy freezes up and tenses up, and he's not even aware of it. I have to watch it and tell him about it. Yo, you're closed. Open yourself up. Three most common times when he's going to approach a girl, those first 5 seconds. When he's trying to make a conversation happen, what do I say, what do I say, what do I say? And when a girl is showing them that they like him, and he knows deep down that he has to escalate, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? I talked about last year, you just have to do it. It's those three times when a guy freezes up, unbeknownst to him. And the second that his body goes tight, the second that he gets the look in his eyes, you know, cat food in the trunk, she is going to immediately drop her attention. She is going to immediately lose all interest, period. So that's the biggest part. That's the 80% that's the 20%, excuse me, that does 80% of the work. If you're doing that, you're going to have a lot of success with women, period. If you're just controlling your body, making sure when you're talking to them, you're looking at them, focused, open, communication. It's going to get there. I mean, luckily, that's not our only advice either, but it's the big part of it. So with that in mind, with that as being the most important thing to always focus on, I want to talk about some of my best stuff for getting through some of those rough spots, some of the biggest things out there. Let's start with the approach. Let's start with the first area that really causes guys to freeze up and tense up and get nervous. Going up and saying hi. Goes up, usually guy will keep a little too much of a distance. Hey, keep a nice distance. So, what's the most important thing about approaching? If there's one skill that I would say is most important to approaching, what would that be? Beyond a shadow of a doubt, I would say that it is observation. Observation. And not just for the use of situational openers. Not just to be able to say, oh, you have a dragon on your shirt. How cool is that? Are those silly bands? I love those. By the way, okay, quick tip. Get some silly bands if you don't have them. Seriously. They're amazing, first of all. Girls love them. And if you ever see a girl wearing them, which you will all the time, all you got to do is like, man, there's some badass silly bands. Yeah, I know. And, oh, what do you have? I don't know. What do you have? Oh, my God. It's the easiest way to start a conversation with girls. Get some silly bands. Ridiculously easy. Anyway, beside the point. Number one is observation. Not just for situational openers, but because a girl will be telling you subconsciously whether she wants you to approach her or not. How does she do that? What are the signals? It's really obvious when you think about all the stuff that I just went over. Because this being more open, being more closed physiology, it doesn't just apply to you and to me and to you and you and you. It doesn't just apply to the guys sitting in this room. It applies to every single human being on the face of the planet. Everybody's got shit they're trying to work through. Everybody's got fears, anxieties, doubts. Women, maybe even more so with men, if we could even fathom that being possible, have this shit brewing inside of them. And so you can look at any woman out there, any woman you see tonight, you can look at her, and you can look at exactly the stuff that we just went over. How much expression she has in her face is the big one. How loud is she speaking? How much animation does she have in her body? How much is she like focusedly looking around versus how much is she just closing herself off and looking away, keeping to her friends, keeping to the bar? I can promise you that if you go to try to approach a woman who is showing everyone in the world, sending off loud signals that she is feeling like shit, that she is self-conscious, that maybe she is nervous, maybe she's worried about how she looks in her dress, maybe she is, just had a really bad week at work, maybe she has gotten into a fight with her friend, maybe she got dumped by some asshole guy, maybe she just rolled out of the wrong side of the bed. If she's sending off those signals and you try to talk to her, now unless you're feeling incredible, unless you're on top of the world and feeling amazing, open as possible, she's probably going to give you a negative reaction. I mean, when you're feeling like crap, you don't want to be bothered by anyone. You don't want to deal with anything. You want to be kept to yourself. Get the fuck away from me. I'm good. Leave me alone. You don't want to deal with that. And